He was barely 20 when he inherited an empire, and less than 13 years later, he ruled from the mountains of Macedonia to the sands of Egypt, from the Tigris to the edge of the unknown world. His name would echo through time like a divine whisper, carried by blood, ambition, and destiny. They called him Alexander the Great. But what made him great? Was it his brilliance as a general, or something darker, something the world was never meant to see? Imagine the flicker of a torch deep beneath the Vatican. Dust, parchment, and centuries of silence. Within those forbidden halls, the Vatican's secret archives, lies a document sealed under papal decree, written in trembling Greek letters, Epistola Alexandri, the letter of Alexander. Scholars whisper that it describes not just conquest, but communion with forces unseen, that within his empire's rise hid a covenant between mortal will and divine command. A myth, or a truth the Church deemed too dangerous to reveal. Fade in the year is 336 BC. The air over Pella is thick with mourning. King Philip II of Macedon lies dead, murdered by his own guard. His son Alexander stands before the corpse, his face calm, almost cold. They say he didn't weep. They say he simply looked to the heavens and smiled. Within days, he took the throne, and within months, he took Greece. But what drives a man to challenge the known world before he has even reached manhood? Ancient historians wrote of a blazing star that appeared the night Alexander was born, a comet that split the heavens over Macedonia. The priests of Delphi called it an omen of divine blood. Olympias, his mother, claims she was visited by Zeus himself in the form of thunder and light. Was it myth-making or something older, stranger? As the Vatican Archives record, one of the earliest Gnostic manuscripts, the Codex Athanasianus, mentions a child of thunder, born of serpent fire. Some believe it refers to Alexander. Others dismiss it as allegory, yet the parallels linger: divinity, conquest, enlightenment, all bound in one mortal name. Picture this: the thunder of hooves over Persian soil. A line of soldiers stretches to the horizon, dust rising like smoke from a funeral pyre. At the front, Alexander, his armor glinting gold under a merciless sun, his eyes fixed not on the men before him, but on eternity itself. His army faces the vast might of Darius III, the King of Kings. Outnumbered 5-1, the Macedonian phalanx braces. The ground trembles with the roar of Persian chariots. But Alexander doesn't flinch. He rides straight through the chaos, his gaze locked on Darius. The moment their eyes meet, 1,000 years of empires collide. At Issus, he crushes the Persian host. Darius flees, his family captured, the world gasps. In less than 2 years, the boy king has undone an empire that ruled for centuries. Yet according to a fragment preserved in the Vatican's restricted Archivum Secretum Apostolicum, a letter attributed to an unknown bishop of the 9th century, there existed a vision of Alexander seen in dreams by monks of Sinai, a youth clothed in light, whose eyes pierced time itself. The Church has long dismissed it as apocryphal. But some researchers claim the document was hidden deliberately, locked away alongside banned gospels and pagan prophecies. What truth could threaten faith itself? As Alexander marches through Phoenicia and into Egypt, the world bends before him. Cities surrender at the sight of his banners. In Egypt, he stands before the priests of Amun at the Oracle of Siwa. The desert wind howls like a living thing. The high priest bows and calls him not king, but son of Zeus. Alexander smiles faintly, as if confirming something he already knew. It's said that what happened next was never recorded in official scrolls. But within those same Vatican vaults, beneath the seal of Clement V, there is mention of a dialogue of the son and king, a lost Alexandrian text describing his journey to Siwa as a descent into light, a ritual initiation rather than a mere visit. The document speaks of an encounter in the chamber of the god, where Alexander beheld his reflection glowing with unearthly brilliance and heard a voice declare, "You are the bridge between heaven and earth." Whether symbolic or real, such visions would forge a man who believed himself destined to rule not just men, but fate itself. Picture the music now, haunting strings, a slow heartbeat rhythm. The camera drifts across the dunes where torches flicker like stars on earth. A whisper rises. He conquered the world, but could not conquer himself. Alexander's empire grew like wildfire. Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, all fell before him. His enemies called him demon, his soldiers called him god. But the deeper he went into Asia, the stranger his obsession became. He began to speak of the source of light, a river at the edge of the earth that could grant immortality. Some historians dismiss this as Eastern myth. Yet in the Vatican's forbidden section on ancient Hermetic writings, there lies a scroll referencing the Tears of Iron, a potion said to have been sought by a Macedonian king guided by a voice in dreams. Could it be coincidence? Or did Alexander, too, chase the forbidden secret of eternal life? As night falls over the ruins of Persepolis, flames lick the black sky. Alexander, drunk, stands before the burning palace of Xerxes, the symbol of Persian pride. "This," he says, "is vengeance for Greece." But his eyes are distant, haunted. Perhaps he knows vengeance is only a shadow of destiny. Behind the flicker of the fire, the music swells, low, mournful, heavy with foreboding. Because even in victory, Alexander begins to unravel. His closest friends whisper of strange rituals, of priests from Egypt and Babylon performing secret rites, of Alexander waking in terror, claiming he'd spoken with beings of light who warned that his reign would be brief. According to one suppressed Vatican commentary on Plutarch, known only by its catalogue number VA 1187, there existed a missing account of Alexander's final days describing visions of a celestial army and a man of shadow standing beside his bed. Whether prophecy or madness, it would come true sooner than he knew. But before that fall, before Babylon and death, there was India, the edge of the world, the place where Alexander's dream met the limits of flesh and will, and where, perhaps, his true secret was buried forever. The year is 326 BC. The monsoon clouds hang heavy over the Punjab plains, and the air smells of rain and blood. Alexander's army, ragged, weary, but still relentless, faces the mighty King Porus at the river Hydaspes. Thunder cracks above them like divine applause. The river itself rages as if the gods are watching. The Macedonians whisper that they've reached the edge of the world. The locals call it the land of endless storms. And as dawn breaks, the storm begins. Porus, towering and armored, rides atop a war elephant, its tusks capped in steel. The beasts roar, shaking the ground beneath Alexander's men. For the first time in years they hesitate, but Alexander smiles. He's been here before, in chaos, in uncertainty. It is in the impossible that he thrives. The signal horn blares, and the Macedonian phalanx surges forward, spears glinting like shards of lightning. The battle is chaos, a thunderous dance of men, beasts, and gods. Alexander rides through the storm, cutting through lines, his white, plumed helmet visible even through the rain. He meets Porus head on, two kings in a moment that would echo through eternity. The clash is brutal. Porus fights like a lion, but Alexander's strategy is divine precision. When the dust settles, the Indian king stands bloodied yet unbroken. Alexander, instead of killing him, bows. "How would you have me treat you?" he asks. "As a king," Porus replies, and Alexander does. The Vatican's Codex, Mirabilia Alexandri, a 15th century compilation hidden within the sealed vaults, describes this encounter as more than mortal mercy. It portrays it as the awakening of a secret brotherhood, a recognition of divine kinship between two rulers who had touched the veil of eternity. But why would the Church suppress such a story? Because within that same codex lies a passage redacted in all public versions, one that speaks of the fire that dwells within kings, born from the same star that fell in Macedon, a celestial origin shared between rulers, an idea heretical to any theology of singular divinity. Perhaps that's why the Vatican locked it away. Yet as Alexander pressed deeper into the east, that divine fire began to consume him. He sought not just conquest, but meaning. He spoke of uniting the world under one banner, one language, one God. His followers called it madness. But what if it wasn't? What if he had glimpsed something vast and eternal, during that mysterious night at Siwa? Ancient letters within the Vatican Archives reference are now lost. Book of Serapis, describing a ritual of ascension where the soul of a king merges with cosmic light. Some scholars believe Alexander rediscovered fragments of that same rite during his campaigns, guarded by Persian magi and Egyptian priests. The ritual promised enlightenment, but demanded sacrifice. The visual now fades to torchlight flickering over a map. Alexander leans over it, his fingers tracing the edge of the known world. His generals urge him to stop, to return home, to rule what he has already won. But Alexander's voice trembles with conviction. There is no home, only destiny. Music shifts, low drums, a haunting flute. The camera pans to his men, hollow-eyed, broken. They've followed him across deserts and mountains, through victory and nightmare. And now, at the banks of the Hyphasis River, they refuse to go further. The rain falls harder. Alexander stands before them, silent, drenched, staring into the endless jungle beyond. For the first time, the world defies him. He turns away. That night, they say he wept. Some chronicles mention that he prayed to the stars, the same constellation that shone the night he was born. In one Vatican manuscript, Ephemeroides Regum, a marginal note in faded Latin reads F. The star that rose with him has dimmed. The son of Zeus turns toward mortality. Perhaps the priests saw something celestial that night, a comet fading, a prophecy fulfilled. From that moment, Alexander's journey turned inward. His march home was no longer a conquest of the world, but a struggle against himself. He reached Babylon in 323 BC, a city of wealth and whispers. There, under the shadow of its ziggurats, he began to dream again, visions of the sea, of the gods, of eternity. He ordered preparations for a new expedition, this time toward Arabia, but fate was waiting. In the heat of a Babylonian summer, Alexander fell ill. Fever gripped him like a vengeful ghost. His generals stood by helplessly as the man who had never been defeated was devoured by something unseen. According to official history, it was malaria or poison. But according to fragments from a sealed Vatican collection labeled Casus Alexandri, the course of Alexander, there is another story. It tells of a visitor that came to him in the night, a man clothed in shadow, whose eyes glowed like embers. The text reads, "The man spoke no word, but laid his hand upon the king's heart, and the fire within dimmed." Was it metaphor, or something darker, perhaps a myth preserved in secret to conceal a truth too terrifying for faith? The room fills with candlelight, the air thick with the sound of labored breathing. Alexander's generals ask him who should inherit his empire. The legend says he whispered, "To the strongest." But the Vatican fragment, preserved in Greek, records a different phrase, 8, "To the one who carries the flame." A single word altered, but a world of meaning transformed. If that's true, then Alexander's death wasn't the end. It was a passing of something, a secret, a light. The question is, to whom? The final image of part 2 fades to black. Only the sound of rain against stone and the distant echo of thunder rolling across Babylon. They say the room was silent when he died. No weeping, no prayer. Just the sound of the greatest conqueror who ever lived taking one last breath. His body lay still, but his eyes, they say, never fully closed. As if even in death, Alexander refused to look away from the horizon. The world he left behind fell into chaos. Generals tore at his empire like wolves at a carcass. His mother, Olympias, claimed his bloodline was divine and must not be diluted. His men whispered that his body did not decay for days, that his flesh remained as perfect as marble. And so the legend began. But legends have roots, and sometimes those roots grow in the dark. The Vatican's Liber Obscurus, a forbidden medieval codex written in monastic cipher, describes an event never recorded in any Greek chronicle, a secret procession departing Babylon under moonlight, carrying not only Alexander's body, but something else, something sealed within a golden casket, a relic the priests of Amun had given him before his final campaign. It was said to contain the breath of the sun. No scholar can confirm what that means. But according to the text, the relic vanished the night his tomb was moved from Babylon to Alexandria. Some claim it was taken to Rome. Others say the Church destroyed it to silence its power. And yet, in the Vatican Archives, beneath layers of restricted access, there exists a locked inventory from 1483 listing an unnamed object of Macedonian origin, golden and radiant. It remains sealed to this day. Imagine the scene centuries later, a candle-lit chamber deep beneath St. Peter's Basilica. Dust floats like ghosts in the air. A priest unlocks an iron chest, revealing a fragment of beaten gold inscribed with ancient Greek letters. Light of life. Was it part of Alexander's casket, or merely a coincidence buried in gold and myth? The Church has never spoken of it publicly. But if this object truly came from the tomb of Alexander, then what did it mean? Some believe the light of life was not treasure, but a symbol of enlightenment, knowledge forbidden by faith. In suppressed Gnostic traditions, there's mention of the 7 flames of the Aeon, each granted to one soul destined to shape the fate of mankind. The first flame, they say, burned in the hands of a man who conquered the world and touched the divine. If true, then Alexander's quest was never for power, but for the eternal light that would make him immortal. The visuals now grow darker, rain dripping from statues, candlelight trembling on marble faces, the faint echo of footsteps through ancient corridors. A narrator's voice cuts through. The Church guards many secrets, but none burn brighter than the question of man's divinity. Could Alexander have believed he was chosen, that he carried something older than kingship, a spark of creation itself? Even after his death, his legacy defied time. His tomb became a site of pilgrimage. Julius Caesar Augustus, even Caligula, stood before his golden sarcophagus, staring into the face of a man who had become a myth. But by the 4th century, it vanished. Some say it was hidden during riots. Others whisper it was taken to Rome under papal command. And in the deepest layer of the Vatican's catalogue, coded beneath a title that translates simply to F, the sleeping king, lies a reference to a sarcophagus of untraceable origin, containing one who is not turned to dust. No photographs, no location, only a notive to be guarded until the final dawn. The music swells, low, haunting, almost divine. The visuals shift to black stone corridors, a key turning in an ancient lock, light spilling across a golden face. Is it Alexander? Or just the shadow of every man who's ever chased eternity? The narrator's tone grows slower, heavier. Perhaps the Vatican hides not proof of a god, but proof that a man once dared to become one. And maybe that's why the story endures, because Alexander the Great wasn't just a conqueror, he was the mirror of every human hunger. Power, knowledge, immortality, the things we are told not to seek, yet, like him, we can't help but reach. The camera pans upward, Babylon's ruins bathed in moonlight, a broken crown half buried in the sand. The wind whispers through the stones, carrying his name, Alexander, a name that will never die. As the screen fades to darkness, a single question remains. What if greatness itself was never about conquering others, but about touching the divine spark that lies buried within us all? Then silence. Only the faint sound of heartbeats echoing like distant drums of an eternal march, and the final whisper, "He came, he saw, he became." If you believe history still hides its greatest secrets, subscribe to Unsolved History. The past is not dead, it's waiting to be uncovered.